Could you survive 24 hours as a Viking? You wake in the dark, on the cold floor of a longhouse, somewhere in Norway. Outside, the sea is gray, and the mountains are white with snow. You reach for your helmet, and it has no horns. It never did. No Viking helmet ever found has a single horn on it. Almost everything you think you know about these people is wrong. They were not filthy, they were not mindless, and most were not even warriors. This is 24 hours as a Viking. First, the truth that ruins the legend. It is just after dawn, and you are not sailing anywhere. You are a farmer. Most Vikings were. Barley, oats, rye, a few animals, and a lot of cold, hard work. Only a small number of young men ever sailed off to raid. The word Viking was never a people. It was a job, something you went and did. So on most days, going Viking is the last thing on your mind. You step out into air so cold it bites and check your animals first. A bad winter here does not mean discomfort, it means death. Back inside, you eat coarse bread, hard enough to crack a tooth, and many Viking skeletons show teeth worn almost flat from it. Yet almost none have cavities because there was no sugar to rot them. Now the part that would shock everyone who fears you. You pick up a comb and you use it every single day. Combs are one of the most common things ever dug from Viking graves. Tweezers, razors, little ear cleaners, grooming kits are everywhere. Once a week on Saturday, you take a full bath. The Norse even named the day for it, Laugardagr, washing day. That word still hides inside the name for Saturday in Scandinavia today. Writers in England complained that you were, of all things, too clean, that you combed your hair, bathed too often, and stole the local women's hearts. You are not the filthy barbarian of the movies, far from it. But today is not an ordinary day. Down at the water, a ship is being loaded. This season, you are one of the few who will go raiding. And now you meet the real reason the world learned to fear the North. Not the axe, not the helmet, this. The longship. It is long, slim, and lighter than anything your enemies can build. It sits so shallow it can cross an open ocean, then row straight up a river. A single square sail drives it faster than any warship of the age. When the wind dies, 30 or 40 men take up the oars. This one machine is why Vikings could strike almost anywhere touched by water. You load it with shields, dried food, and empty chests you mean to fill. There is no deck to hide beneath. You will live in the open, on the sea. No maps, no compass. Nothing like them exists yet. You will read the sun, the stars, the wind, and the flight of birds. You will taste the water and watch the color of the waves. The steersman takes the tiller at the stern and calls a launch. The hull slides off the sand and bites into the cold water. The land you were born on shrinks away behind you. Ahead is only gray horizon, in days of it. You set your hands to an oar, and you pull. And already, the sea begins to test whether you belong to it. Hour by hour, the water grows bigger, and you grow smaller. There is no shelter on a longship, none at all. When it rains, you are rained on. When waves break over the side, you bail. At night, the cold reaches into your bones and simply stays there. Your hands split open on the wet oar, and the salt burns every crack. You are tall for your age. The average Norse man stands around 5'9". But out here, strength is not what keeps you alive. Luck is. A single storm can swallow the whole ship and every man aboard it. And no one on land would ever know what became of you. This, not the enemy, is what kills most raiders. The sea does not care in the slightest that you are feared. You navigate by memory and instinct, handed down for generations. A cloud sitting still on the horizon can mean land hiding beneath it. Birds carrying fish are flying home to nest, so you follow them. Days pass, the food turns hard and the water turns foul. Men fall silent, watching the gray line where sky meets water. Then at last, someone stands and points. A thin, dark smudge on the horizon that does not move. Land. A coast of green fields, and something pale standing above them. A monastery, rich, undefended, and utterly unready for you. The oars dig in, and the ship turns toward the shore. What happens next is why your name will echo for 1,000 years. This is the raid on Lindisfarne in the year 793. Just 3 ships, a handful of men, one quiet morning. Historians mark this single attack as the day the Viking Age began. The keel grinds onto the beach, and you are over the side before it stops. Speed is everything. You strike before anyone can gather to fight back. The monks here have no walls, no soldiers, and no warning at all. To them, armed men rising out of the sea are almost beyond imagining. You take silver, gold, and anything small enough to carry away. You are not here for glory. You are here for wealth. A single good raid can make a poor farmer rich for the rest of his life. But there is a darker cargo too. The young and healthy are seized, roped together, and led to the ships. Human beings carried off to be sold. This was the raid's cruel engine. It is brutal, and it is real, and we will not pretend otherwise. But here is where the legends go too far. You have heard of the Blood Eagle, a nightmare of a killing. In truth, there is almost no evidence the Vikings ever performed it. Thousands of graves have been opened, and not one body shows its mark. The most gruesome Viking story of all may simply be a later invention. You are dangerous, but you are not the cartoon monster of legend. You are a raider doing a cold, calculated job, and doing it terrifyingly well. Smoke rises behind you as you drag the loaded chests back to the ship. The whole raid has lasted less than a single morning. You push off before the countryside can raise one blade against you, and you leave behind a fear that will spread across all of Europe. So, could you survive 24 hours as a Viking? If you imagine dying with a sword in your hand, think again. Open battle was rare. Most days held no fighting at all. Your true enemies were quieter and far more patient than any soldier. The sea, which took entire crews without leaving a trace. The cold, which turned one failed harvest into a mass grave. Infection, which could kill you from a cut you barely felt. The average Viking lived only about 35 years, but that number is bent low by how many babies never grew up. Survive childhood, and you might well reach your 50s or beyond. Some lived into their 80s, ruling and sailing into old age. To last a day as a Viking, you would need to be strong, clean, and calm. A farmer first, a sailor second, and a fighter only when you had to be. Endure the cold, respect the sea, and pray the winter is merciful. Do all of that, and yes, you could survive as a Viking. But the story does not end on the raid. It ends on a truth. The whole Viking Age lasted only about 270 years. It began at Lindisfarne, and it ended on a bridge in England in 1066. There the last great Viking king fell, and the raids faded into history. But what these people left behind was never really the axe or the raid. It was the ship, proof of how far skill and nerve can carry ordinary hands. It was farmers who crossed oceans no one else on earth dared to cross. The horned, filthy savage never existed. That monster was invented centuries later, on a painter's canvas in an opera stage. The real Viking was cleaner than his enemies and mostly longed to go home. Home, to a cold farm, a warm fire, and a comb resting by the door. You lift your helmet one last time, still, of course, without a single horn. And you finally understand what these people truly were. Not monsters, just the boldest sailors the world had ever seen.